listening to Motherhood in Black and White.
Hello, podcast family. Welcome to Motherhood in Black and White. My name is Kaanji.
I'm Tara.
And we are so appreciative of the fact that you decided to join us for this conversation this week. This week, we are going to talk about the international phenomenon that has taken over many a household, including my own, Squid Game, and how we can determine as parents what is appropriate television for our children. Now, Tara, I had not realized that Squid Game is the most watched television show in the history of the Netflix streaming platform. And the most recent statistics showed that 2 out of every 3 households had watched this series, including, unbeknownst to my husband and me, our 12-year-old son in our house.
Really?
Yeah, it was downloaded and watched by Roman, all 9 episodes.
Oh, wow. So you're one of the 2 out of 3. It's crazy, the timing on this, because this week I got an email from Gage's teacher, and the subject line was Squid Game. And it was a short little note about apparently a lot of students in his class are talking about Squid Game. He references the fact that it's rated TVMA, so not everybody's at that level watching those shows. And it was essentially kind of like, I know it's hard to police what they're doing or watching, but please remind your students that not everybody's watching the same level of media. We're not all ready for those levels, and so we don't need to be talking about it in school, basically. It was enough of a phenomenon that my kid's 5th grade teacher had to email me to tell me, like, hey, they're talking about this, so put it on your radar.
To every parent in the classroom.
Yeah, got this email.
Right. And this television show is, like you said, rated TVMA for mature audiences only. But this phenomenon has happened where a whole bunch of kids are watching it.
Yes.
For us, what happened was the week it came out and it was released in the United States, we noticed that our son had accessed my husband's Netflix account and had downloaded Squid Game. We didn't know what it was until a couple of days afterwards when we saw like, oh, everyone has been watching Squid Game. We hadn't seen it. So my husband downloaded it and watched the first episode. He came to me and he said, Conj, we got to talk to our kid.
Yeah.
This is inappropriate. So we wanted to have this conversation today to talk about A, why Squid Game is so popular. B, if it is age appropriate for a 5th grader like Gage, a 7th grader like my son Roman, or for anybody at all. And then have a little bit of a conversation about how we as parents can start to monitor and understand this new reality of accessibility and availability of TV shows, even when there are parental guidelines attached to them.
Right, absolutely.
So let's take a minute to talk about Squid Game. Did you end up watching it?
I only watched, so the funny story there is it's unexpected that I am one of the households that has not watched Squid Game.
Listen, Netflix, you have single-handedly kept Netflix in business the last 3 years.
This is true, but I'm not here for Squid Game. So, but because I'd heard about it and I knew it was a big topic, I watched the first 2 episodes just so I could understand what everybody was talking about, especially, getting that email and being curious. So I watched the first 2 episodes.
And just to give it context, so Squid Game is a TV series, a limited TV series streaming on Netflix that was imported from South Korea.
Correct.
And it has subtitles as well as dubbed over.
Dubbing, yes.
It's subtitled and dubbed over in English. And the premise is that some of the contestants of this game are in dire financial straits, right?
Yep.
A bunch of people, cross-section of South Korea's population, different ages, genders, and backgrounds, and they're in financial straits, so they enter this game to win a lot of money. And it's like that old show, maybe it was a book, The Most Dangerous Game.
Yes.
Remember that? Was it a book or a short story?
I think it was a short story.
Yes.
And I'm sure, there's been versions of it made. I know there was, I can't remember the names of any of them, but I've seen movies where, like hunting people was the game, or like I thought about the Hunger Games. It's sort of similar to that in a different way, but similar. But yes, it's not the first time we've seen a parable like this.
Exactly. So Tara, you're right. It's about hunting people. And so what ends up happening is these contestants play popular children's games, but with deadly results and consequences. Right. And it's very violent. It's very graphic and very inappropriate for kids. Hence the TVMA rating. But again, 5th graders are watching it. 7th graders are watching it.
Yeah.
So you watched a couple of episodes, Tara. What were your thoughts? What'd you think?
I don't think I'll finish it. It's a little too intense for me.
Player 324 eliminated.
I knew going into it a little bit about what it was, so I wasn't surprised when things started getting crazy. But after watching it, I was like, I'm good. Like, it's just not my thing. And Gage asked me a couple of weeks ago if he could watch it, I guess because his friends were talking about it, which is what started this whole thing. And I called him after I got that email and I was like, you cannot watch it. Like, after I watched it, I was like, you cannot watch it. I was like, absolutely not. But it's a lot. It's pretty intense.
And now it is so difficult to monitor adolescent kids' choices of television because, let's go ahead and draw the parallel to what happened when we were kids. Right. So back when we were kids, there were 4 TV channels. Like,
yes,
I will tell you, I remember when Fox broadcast television started. Fox started in my lifetime.
New channel.
Brand new channel.
Big deal.
So it went from 3, ABC, NBC, and CBS to 4.
That's right.
We had 4 options of what to watch. And back then, we would pull out our paper TV guide because we had one TV, and everyone in my family, my brothers, my step siblings, we would like mark the show and circle in the TV guide what we wanted to watch. Now this sounds like we also then got on our little covered wagons.
It does. It's such a contradiction
to what they're doing now.
Yeah.
But even remembering back when Netflix, they used to mail movies to you to watch.
The DVDs.
Yeah. And back then, TV went off. So we had one TV in the living room. At some point in childhood, we did have some smaller TVs in our bedrooms, but TV went off. There were very limited options, and the content of the TV shows was pretty mild compared to what it is now.
Yeah. The FCC rules back then were way more locked down. I mean, there's stuff I see on TV today that I just can't believe. It just blows my mind. That you would have never seen when we were kids.
On network TV.
On network TV.
And on top of that, we have access to all of these streaming services. And the streaming services, you have the availability of watching TV shows. And there's guidance, but unfortunately, you have kids like my son who go around the guidance and log in under his dad's account, So what is it that we can do to kind of stop them and protect them, because they are so much further ahead of the curve than we are? Because again, by the time I had even heard of this TV show, Squid Game, my kid had streamed all 9 episodes.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. And it's interesting because we don't have a separate login for Gage. He has his own profile that's kids on Netflix. And one of the things that we do with him is, the problem is it's not just that it's on TV. He's got his own device that he can stream. And if I'm not paying attention, he could be doing that anywhere, So he and I have set some ground rules about, if you're watching streaming shows, it's on the TV so that I can wander in and out and see what you're up to. Or if you're going to watch regular YouTube because you're looking for something specific, it's got to be on the big TV so I can wander in and out and see what you're up to. So we've laid some ground rules about that, but I'm not watching him around the clock. He could easily sneak out of his room at 2 a.m. and grab his iPad and be doing whatever he would like to do. We've locked down as much as we can, but he's found ways around it before.
Yeah.
It's so hard. They're so much better at it than us. I couldn't have come up with some of the things he's come up with to get around that stuff. It's wild.
And we don't want to be at a point where we are policing our kids. We want to put up the guardrails. And this is why when our kids start to get older, the double digits, it starts to get, I think, a little bit more challenging because there's so many more gray areas. When they are infants and toddlers, it is so easy to say no.
Right.
And hold those lines.
Yeah.
But when they are adolescents, we're trying to encourage them to start to problem solve and decision make on their own. And so we start to kind of put up the guardrails, but loosen our grip on the scaffolding to let them have this agency and let them have the ability to make their own choices. Yeah. And what I have found is my 12-year-old just makes terrible choices.
Well, and it's, they're hearing about this stuff at school. It's not like we can even guard them from knowing about the things because their friends are watching it, maybe with permission, maybe not. I don't know. But every family's got their own comfort level. And so as much as I want to control him, I can't. He's out there in the world. He's going to hear things and see things that I have no control over.
And this isn't new because this is what we experienced also growing up, right, Tara?
Right.
My mother was able to set strict watching requirements or strict guidelines about what we could and couldn't watch at the house. But I had a brother that was 3 years older than me and lots of cousins. And so when my mom would, drop us off at a movie theater to go see a PG-rated movie, they took me to see Friday the 13th Part 3.
Well, we had the neighborhood kids and babysitters. And I remember I was thinking about this. I watched Freddy Krueger when I was like 6. I mean, young. And it scarred me for a very long time.
Yeah.
Those big kids back then were mean, man. They were trying to scare us to death.
Big kids, big brother.
Yeah.
I know. Believe me, I know. And Tara, so we can't insulate our kids.
Right.
And we can make decisions. We can try our best to set these boundaries and hold them to them. But we know that as they are going out in the world and we're not there, they are going to, like you said, either be watching these at friends' houses who might have access to them or hearing about them. And so what it is how do we then set up sufficient guidelines to protect them and let them realize you may not be old enough to understand what you're seeing and how that's going to affect and impact you.
Yes. Gage and I have had conversations about that before. And I think what I also try to do is set up open conversations so that when he does go out and see things and hear things that he's not quite grasping or seems inappropriate, he has come to me before and asked me questions like, somebody was doing this at school or saying this or talking about this, what does that even mean? Or what, so I don't know if that's going to last because he's only 11. We've got a whole purview of teenagerdom coming. But I am glad that for now, he seems comfortable enough that when he finds himself witnessing or experiencing something that doesn't make sense to him or seems a little bit above his level, he's asked me questions about it. And we've had conversations.
Yeah. One thing that I would just caution you and every parent to do is to understand and be mindful that the FCC is a regulatory body, is not our friend. And they don't live in your household. So when they are setting parental guidelines, TVMA, PG-13 or TV-13, or for all audiences, that's just a generic general guideline, but it is so inapplicable to some of our kids. And I have found that there are things that are like TV-13 and above that my 12-year-old cannot and should not watch.
Really?
Yes.
See, that's interesting. I think that the ratings now are way more strict than the ratings when we were kids.
Really?
Yes. And I'll give you examples. We went on this little quest, and we're still on it because there's a ton of movies, but Jason and I both have watched old movies with Gage that we loved as kids that are PG-13. And we're always wildly surprised at the amount of curse words that are in those movies when we were kids, or like kids are smoking, or like an example. I showed Gage Peter Pan, the cartoon Peter Pan, when he was little. And like the kids are smoking and shooting guns at each other. I'm like, what? This is a Disney movie.
Tara, have you turned on the TV this decade?
Yes.
Well, again, like we live in the central time zone. So here in Texas, network TV, the primetime shows come on at 7 p.m., which clearly is still a time when even someone like me is awake, right?
Right.
I'm still awake to watch the 7 p.m. shows. And the content on these shows, it is so racy and I think inappropriate.
Really?
Yes. the language that they use, the sexual content, the relationships, and things where kind of have to have conversations with my kid about what I would have thought were adult situations.
Yeah, I could see that. I think I probably watch less network TV than you do. We're more on the streaming stuff. But Gage got into Friends a little bit because I would watch it all the time. And there were some Friends episodes even that I was like, we're not going to watch this one. Like, because I knew the topics and I didn't want to have those conversations yet. So I guess that's true.
But how is it that we're able then to monitor what our kids are watching when they do have access to getting the TV shows on certain streaming platforms through so many different devices, right?
Yeah.
Rather than completely locking and shutting everything down and maybe password protecting. If we are going to start opening up and trusting our kids to watch appropriate shows, even when we're not around, or telling them what's appropriate, what kind of guidelines would you offer to Gage to do it?
Gage knows that in general, we're good for PG-13, TV-14. He knows I have given him like the ratings that he's good up to. So he knows that. And we've allowed him pretty much to, I mean, not the entire time he's been a kid, but the last couple of years for sure. PG-13 and PG-14, TV-14 has been okay. So he knows that there's some ratings that are generally okay. And he doesn't have to double check with me.
Well, let me ask you this. So on the TV-14 category, he's 11.
Yep.
So you trust him to watch TV shows that are up to TV-14, even if that can include content that, is more geared towards older teenagers and adults.
Yeah, I've watched, if there's one that I'm not familiar with, most of what he watches, I know what it is, right? I do have a pretty good idea. But if there's one I'm not familiar with and he's talking about it or we're discussing it, I'll check it out a little bit. But in general, anything I've seen at TV-14, unfortunately, most of the superhero stuff is TV-14. Or there was a show he loved that you and I have discussed, and I can't remember the name of it. But it was very generic. It was TV-14. So we've allowed for that. We've allowed for that. I have not had experience with that rating where I was like, oh God, no, that's not okay. It's okay for him. He watches Marvel movies, which are a little bit above grade, I think. And I think TV-14 falls in that category for me.
With us, where there is kind of a fine line is with some of the content. And as we know, there are innuendos that are happening in some of the shows that, his little adolescent mind, there are jokes on some of the TV comedies that we watch. And he just doesn't get.
Yeah.
We get them.
Right.
But I also don't want to, or I'm not ready to have some of the conversations explaining some of the repartee or some of the double entendres that are happening. But knowing that, he is going to hear about this out in the world. He can hear about it on the Google. So it is good that I'm able to either watch shows with him or to allow him to be open to watch the shows around us. What did concern us with the Squid Game was that he watched it under his father's account on Netflix. And then he streamed the whole thing in a weekend, kind of knowing that he shouldn't have been doing it and did it anyway. So we never had an explicit conversation like, you do not get to watch this show. Because A, we didn't know the show existed. And B, he had never watched something that was mature audiences. Like me, he has a very weak stomach, doesn't like horror, anything like that. Really doesn't like horror movies. And his father tried to take him to one of those amusement park, was it Halloween at the amusement park?
What is that called? Fright Nights.
One of the Fright Nights back in 2019. I keep forgetting that 2020 pretty much didn't exist, right? Like
just erase that.
We didn't do anything in 2020.
Right.
But back in 2019, so when he was almost 11, he and one of his best friends went to one of the Fright Nights at the park. And these are big kids for their age, especially Roman's friend. And Joey came home and he was like, these big babies, they were clawing onto me. They were crying because at the Fright
There's
Night,
like zombies walking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
And could not deal with it. So we knew that he couldn't deal with horror movies and he never wanted to watch them because he was afraid of the nightmares or being terrified. And just recently, in the last couple of weeks, my husband and son decided they wanted to watch the original Halloween, like the 1970s Halloween, the first Michael Myers. And I was like, I don't know if he's ready for this.
Yeah.
but he sat through it and he didn't have nightmares. But listen, I'm still 30 years later having nightmares about Jason and Freddy Krueger, right?
Yes, same. I'm still not good.
No, never will be.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think for me, one of the things that I want to make sure is that I'm like understanding what can happen if he is watching some of this stuff and what it's doing to his mind
His
and
developing brain.
you know, and the nightmares, because at the end of the day, in the middle of the night, when he wakes up screaming, he's screaming for mommy.
Yeah, it's going to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gage we've drawn the hard and fast line on the ratings. So Gage knows what ratings he can watch and what ratings he has to ask about. And if he's really adamant about one that is above grade, like Squid Game, and he came to me and was like, all my friends are watching it. I know it's TV mature. And I said, I'll look at it. And then I was like, no, because it's just too much. But another one he asked me about was Stranger Things. And Jason and I did watch Stranger Things. I told him, I said, Gage, I know that probably a lot of your friends have watched that. I go, but it's really scary. Like it's scary. And I also know my kid, and kind of like what you're talking about with Roman. I just know Gage is just not ready for that. And so I try to explain to him, like, I'm doing this for you, buddy. Like, just trust me, give that a little bit more time. Because I've seen what makes you nervous and what upsets you. So for that one, just trust me, I've seen it, and I don't even think you want to watch that, honestly. So he's pretty good about listening to me, and he's tried it before, like not a TV show, but he's landed on a video that wasn't okay before, and he's come in and been like, can you make sure these videos never show up on my I mean, he's pretty clear. He's pretty open about what he doesn't want to get into. So it's an interesting little exercise. Especially as he gets older.
Yeah, and you raised the point that I was trying to make earlier when I said, don't trust the government. It's not me being an anarchist. It's just that the generic ratings and the parental guidance and guidelines are not a substitute for you knowing your kid. So when we ask ourselves and when we're thinking and considering what is it that we can do to make sure that we are monitoring our kids and what they're watching and not relying on the TV ratings and parental guidelines. The one thing that I would just suggest in kind of the default position and everything where we land is, you know your kid. You know your kids better than anyone, and most likely better than they know themselves while they are still growing and developing. So you know what's best for them, and you know if they are mature enough to handle or can watch certain shows. I don't think any kid is ready to see Squid Game, but
I'm a grown-up and I don't want to watch the rest of that show. So just to be clear.
So when we were preparing for this, one of the things that I was going to do was also watch Squid Game because, you know, I like to do my homework, and we said we're going to talk about this. I watched about 12 minutes.
You didn't even get to the intense part.
So I watched 12 minutes of the first episode. Then I put it on fast forward, and I saw there was like a lot of blood. And then I was like, what's this? And then I watched like 4 more minutes. And then I said, you know what? Let me just put on the final episode.
You skipped ahead.
Oh, completely. I am okay with it because it wasn't for me. I was like, But I also knew that if I had known about that before,
right,
I would have had the conversation with my kid like, hey, this is not something that Daddy and I will want you to watch. And because he is a rule follower at the end of the day, he wouldn't have watched it if we had set that boundary and parameter up first. But what he also does is he tests those boundaries and he kind of goes between the lines. So if you explicitly say, no, you cannot do this, he won't do it. But he's going to just inch around and find his way and navigate and negotiate all. He's like, well, you never said I couldn't watch it.
Right.
But didn't know it existed.
I know, right? That's not a great argument when it was a brand new show. And it just goes to show, I knew about it when it hit Netflix because immediately my social media lit up with it. It was in the news. And I was like, oh, okay, that must be the next big thing. And 2 days later, Gage was like, hey, can I watch? I'm like, man, I mean, it's just like wildfire. And it's so hard to stay ahead of that stuff, you know? And that's why we've got, like you were saying, because Gage so far. This won't last forever, but it works right now. That's where us just kind of giving him like, up to here, you're good. But after that, you have to ask. And that's helped us stay ahead of that kind of stuff. Because he'll go like, oh, he'll look at the rating, and he does it on video games. He'll come and tell me, can I get this video game? It's rated for teens. Or like, I mean, he always knows the rating because we like push that in his brain so much, because it just gives us some guidelines where he feels like he's got some autonomy.
Yeah. One of the other things that we can do in certain circumstances, I found, is to, with Netflix, look and see like, what are the top 10 shows as soon as they come out. And then I'm able to say, hey, you cannot watch any of these shows.
Yes.
Right. Or
yes, I do that too.
You are able to watch this show. But again, we don't do a lot of TV. We don't do a lot of streaming services. He does a lot of YouTube, and he's into watching other kids play video games. And at this point, if that's the alternative to Squid Game, I'm good with it.
I know Gage he is on that too right now. He's watching kids play Pokemon video games. I'm like, all right, if that does it for you, buddy, this annoys me.
But Squid Game is not going to be the last time we have this conversation with our kids about what's appropriate, what's not. And in some ways, it's forcing us to be proactive in the parenting, and also to have much needed conversations in our households and in our communities about what is appropriate. And then I think at a deeper level, and this is a conversation for another day, why it is that this type of content resonates so deeply with our kids and why they like watching it.
I agree with you. I'm curious. I'm curious about that, why this one is so popular. It's so wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But until we can have that conversation, I'm still going to lean for and push for many more Disney movies to be shown.
I need a lot more Disney, that's for sure.
But apparently not Peter Pan, because
not Peter Pan. That movie did not age well. That's all I'm going to say. He was so young when we watched it, and like 5 minutes in, Jason and I were like, what is going on in this cartoon? You can't have pirate children. They are no good.
The animator apparently was a little ahead of his time.
I mean, I'm telling you,
Or
Captain Hook smokes the whole time. It's crazy. He's shooting people off of things. It's wild.
But also so much better than Squid Game.
Agreed.
We are going to go ahead and wrap this conversation up with the understanding that we are at the end of another month with 2 months left in 2021. Looking forward to wrapping this up in the best way possible. And Tara, you have something really, really great on the horizon in just 6 weeks. What's happening with you?
6 weeks and school is over.
And you will have that MBA.
I will. And I was just bragging to a friend yesterday about getting my cap and gown, because I forgot that the masters, you get like the cool collar with your cap and gown. And I saw a picture of it and I was like, oh, that's right. Like, you look fancy. Like, that's a fancy one. I'm very excited.
We're going to have you take lots of pictures and put it on our social media accounts. And podcast family, please make sure that you stop by our IG account and give Tara some thanks and root her on as she wraps up her MBA. And as we wrap up this episode of Motherhood in Black and White, we just wanted to thank you for rocking with us another week. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Please guard your health, mental, physical, and spiritual. Take good care, podcast fam.